Okay. What I want to first go over a little bit is our schedule and show you how I'm going to do this semester that I hope will help you be able to plan ahead a little bit. The reason I say that is this class, it's really difficult to know exactly where we're going to be every week, depending upon, sometimes it takes a little longer to go over problems if people have more questions. So I try to do it, adjust my class to that rather than just say, hey, we have to be here at the end of this week. We do have to cover certain material, but I want to leave it where if there's more questions or something that we're not limited there. So if you open Canvas, you should see a new document called Module 1 Schedule. And so there will be 4 modules this semester, and they won't be divided by week like I've done in the past. So at the top of each module, I have like a tentative schedule, which gives you an idea when the next test that you have to be in the class to take is, so that you can kind of plan ahead for that. And if it looks like it's going to change, it will only change by one class period. Like that will be the week that test will be. And if I always try to do the Wednesday of that week. But if something happens and I have to push it to the next Monday, if we don't quite get everything covered. Okay, so in this document, Schedule 1, it tells us what we've done since the beginning. Because this is the second week, so this is important because I have to turn in the AW grades, which doesn't affect anybody that's come to class here, but some of my online students and 1230 students watch these videos, and this is when I have to turn in those AWs, which is automatic withdrawal. So, and this, if you have this in other classes, just so you're aware of that, anything that you have even online, if you haven't met those requirements, then they automatically withdraw you from the class. So all of the assignments in Module 1 will be due it says at the end of the second week. That is incorrect. I messed that up. I was trying to make this accurate. At the end of I think it's right at test time in the 4th week, whatever day that I end up, which I have it scheduled for September the 11th, is test 1, which should be the Wednesday of the 4th week. And so the assignments for everything that's covered in test 1, which will be chapters 1 and 2 in the book and some other homework things that we're doing, those things that pertain to test 1 will all be due that Tuesday night at midnight prior to the test. I believe that's what date I have, but we'll confirm that. So I'm trying to keep everything kind of grouped together so that it's around every 4 weeks we'll take the test where you have to be in class, because I don't give makeups, remember, for those in-class tests. The only option you have is if you're sick and you can't come in, then you will take the final, which is the same as test 4, but a different problem. So it's not like you're going to cover a bunch of stuff but that grade will replace any test that you missed 1 through 4. Okay, but if you take test 1 through 4 and you're happy with your grade at the end of the semester, then you're not required to take the final test. Okay, so that's how I do it, because it's too difficult to schedule makeup tests. So I just do it that way, and I know, people get sick and like that. That's why that's your option. Okay, no other ways to make up those tests, just those 4, which are worth the most because they tell me if you can apply all the materials that we've been working on in class. So those are the only tests that you can't get help from other students on. But even when you take those tests in class, like when we take test 1, you will be able to use your notes and past assignments and the book to try to solve the problem, okay? Because the exact answer to that problem isn't anywhere, but you can find out, like if you forgot how to make a certain flowchart symbol, whether a parallelogram, say for instance, is input and output. Maybe you forgot that. You forgot what shape it is. Then you can look that up, okay? But you cannot use your phones to text somebody during that test. You cannot ask the person you're sitting by. That's the only rules that I have about taking that test. You have access to all the information that you need except for another person. So you have to do your own work. When we do homework and projects, if it helps you to work with somebody, that's not a problem. It's just that you need to be sure that you're understanding so that when you take that test one, that you can solve the problem with access to the materials. And one reason I do that is because in a real live programming environment, you're going to have access to Google, to documentation, to resources. Most of you all do it all on the internet. When I started in programming, there wasn't such thing as the internet. So I had racks of volumes of manuals. They'd be on a rack this long in IBM manuals, and I'd have to try to find the answer to solve my problem. But that is something that, to me, if you know how to find the answer, that's what's important. Not that you keep it all up here, because there's too much information in today's society. Very few can learn it and keep it all up here. But it is at your fingertips, right?
Will the tests be timed?
It is timed because it's a class period. You know, we take it, you have 75 minutes. But that's a good question, because some people, that bothers them when it's timed. But most students are able to finish in the first 20 minutes, okay? So if something happens and you get so frustrated that you can't, because of the time limit, then I will take that into consideration. I can watch and see who understands it from your work and things. So, but you won't need extra time, especially on the first one, because you don't even do Python unless you want to, okay? So you should be very comfortable, but I know I have 3 children. We homeschooled all of them, and they were all so different. And my 2 girls had, and I don't mean to classify gender, but my girls have test anxiety, and they still do. My son, he's in the middle. It doesn't bother him at all. He just takes tests. He'd rather take tests than write papers. So, it's just different people have different things, and some are really good test takers, and they know how, but they may not really know the material after they get finished. So it's all important, and the only reason I have to give tests is so that I can see if you're retaining or understanding the information. Because the thing about this class is it's a build class. In other words, if you're successful here, then you'll have a lot more higher percentage chance of being successful in a scripting or a programming class. Or my graphic designers, they have to do for web, like HTML and JavaScript and things like that. So if you understand this class, that's why it's a build class. And if you've already programmed, I know Professor Dewey has decided, cyber people, this is not a requirement, but it's recommended by a lot of like our advisor, because you will be more successful if it's your first time to ever be introduced to any kind of scripting or programming, okay? So it's just to help you be a better student. All right, so any other questions about that? That was a good one she came up with. So we'll talk, and I'll make sure that you're comfortable by the 4th week for test 1. If you're coming to class and you're doing work outside of class, which is required, you can't get it all done in just these 2 class periods. I should say most students cannot, okay? So if you're doing all that, then I will help you to understand. All right, so we're going to complete. You should have already, I upped the date, like Samuel mentioned. I pushed the date up for Unit 1 to tomorrow at midnight. I think I said August 29th. And I did that for this first test just to get people adapted to the mind tap and all that. Some students, even though it was a trial, were having trouble getting it done. Not in this class, but in my online, and I try to keep all of the dates in sync. So that should be done, and we finished covering Unit 1 on Monday, but we're going to do some more of the problems. And this was the assignment that's out there, and I know some have done it, some have not, but the problems that we did in class on Monday are exactly like what number 6 in your assignment here. So then this is week 2, and so the mind tap assignment is what we're going to do first today, and then we're going to go back and do some problems, especially exercise 8A, so that you can do another homework problem that's available there over the weekend. So the mind tap assignment that we're going to do is that one that says executing code in Python. And we're going to go into mind tap and do that. Then you remember next week is Labor Day week, and so Monday we will not meet, and so we will only have 1 in-class lecture. So I have several these assignments that are due on Tuesday night next week, September 3rd, just because of the holiday. Normally everything will be on Monday nights every week, but I'm giving you through Tuesday night just because of that holiday, okay? So you can have a good Labor Day weekend, right? Okay, then this one will be done. This one, some of you've already done it, I realize, and that's great. This is kind of an introduction to what is covered in Unit 2 in MindTap is variables. And so that tutorial gives you an introduction of how to do variables in Python, whereas our book just gives you generic what works for variables in every language. And there's also modular programming covered in there, and we'll be covering that next week. So then week 4, we will be finishing the coding that's in MindTap. There's 4, I think, coding problems in MindTap. We'll work those. We will always work those together in class. If you want to do them ahead of time, you're welcome to do that, but people struggle with the way MindTap grades those coding problems, and they get so frustrated that I always go over them in class. But if you're not in class that day, you either will have to watch the video or do them on your own by the due date, because I won't extend the due dates after this week. Then, like I brought up, our test 1 will be the Wednesday, September 11th, in class, okay? All right, so that kind of gives you an overview, and that doesn't mean that's all in stone. Like, for instance, I had an error up there. So, but that kind of gives you a ballpark date for this test. Will either be that Wednesday or the following Monday. It will not be before that, okay? So that's the earliest that that test will be given, will be Wednesday, September 11th. All right, so let's go back and look then. And so how the way module 1 is laid out is those assignments in order that they're supposed to be done. So you should do this one, which you see it's not due. Actually, I give you over this weekend too. But something that I did notice that some students that I have graded, I didn't grade this class, it was some online students, had done an incorrect problem. They had uploaded the problem we did in class on Monday. So be sure that you do problem number 6 at the end of the MindTap chapter 1. Okay, and we'll look at that here before the end of the.
Wait, are we supposed to turn that in?
Not the one we did in class, but you are supposed to turn this in.
Wait, you
Okay, so this one is, if you click on it, it tells you this is the introduction class video. You don't have to watch that, but that was for my online students. Then it says go to Unit 1 MindTap programming exercises and complete number 2 and 6. And then upload the pseudocode. That's supposed to say and flowchart. I better get out of student view and put that in there. Using Lucidchart. And that's what we did in class, but gotta do edit. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
We did one in class, but we did not do number 6. But I showed you that was exactly what you upload for this problem.
Okay.
All right.
This isn't due until Tuesday?
Right. I went ahead and gave you all, because this being the first week, I gave extra long on some of these assignments, but then we start moving a little quicker.
Okay.
All right. So right now, and we're going to go back to some of those exercises if we have time, but I wanted to get into the MindTap. So right now you can click on this executing code in Python, and I know there was a few of you all that have already done it, but we're going to do it together in class so we can become familiar with how MindTap coding problems works. So then you click here, load executing code in Python in a new window, and it should come up like this. So it comes up, your lab executing code in Python is ready. So then you click on start assignment now. And so even if you haven't purchased MindTap yet, you can do this because you have the 14-day trial.
But after this, will MindTap still be?
At the end of 14 days, when you click on it to go into it, it's going to make you buy it or enter an access code that you've purchased at the bookstore.
But if you already bought the book, can you still get MindTap or no?
Yes. If you bought the hard copy of the book, you still have to use MindTap, and you have to buy the access code.
No, I bought the book
online. Yeah, then you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, if you went ahead and bought it, then you don't have to worry about the trial. Okay. All right. So this one, the way this lab works is it tells you, and all the coding problems inside MindTap that I assign, they will have the instructions over here, and they'll tell you what to type in here, which is your Python. Like we've already done some Python, so you're familiar a little bit with the print statement and how to put something in quotes. But this was assuming that this is the very first time you've ever seen Python. And when you run it, your results are going to show in this column. And when you get 100%, it'll show you over here. And then you'll have a submit button that you push, and that posts the grade into Canvas. Okay. All right, so we're going to go here. It says summary. In this lab, you will execute a pre-written Python program. Now, is everyone in here that hasn't done it? Does anybody need help getting into MindTap and seeing this? All right, be sure you let me know if you can't get in there and do this, because this saves you. If you haven't done it yet, then this is something that you won't have to do at home. Execute the program. There should be no syntax errors, and note the output of this program. The other thing is the advantage to the coding being in here, but we're going to do other coding also, is that you don't have to download Python because it's built into MindTap. So whether Python is on your computer or not is irrelevant when you do this coding inside of MindTap. Okay, so you can do this over at the library or any computer because it's all on the internet. MindTap is. All right, so modify the program so it displays I'm learning how to program in Python. So right here, I'm learning how to program. All it's wanting you to do is change this quote to say in Python. And what's the thing about MindTap that people don't like is that if you don't put the space in the right place or spell the word right, it won't give you 100%. It's real picky. That's why I'm telling you that we go over these in class, and I still have students say, I'm doing it just like that, and it doesn't work. Well, usually there's some little bitty something, but when you go into PyCharm or idle, it's not as picky, which is the real Python, right? This is a grader so that, you know, like if I had a class of, which I do have like 66 students, but if I had one class of 50, you know, I don't have to go in and grade all of these, right? But I don't like how it grades, so we do other Python too. So if you've modified it here, can everybody see what to do? All right, so then modify it, add a second output statement that displays. That's awesome. So what do we put in line 2? How do we display output? Print. So we go print, parentheses, and you notice it puts the double parentheses there for you. Put a quote because we're making a statement display out to the screen, and we type it in just like it is there. And if it doesn't work, then I've done something wrong. Okay, now it says to execute the program. So to execute the program, I come right here where it says run code, or you can do Control Enter. But you can do it this way also. Over here, it's going to check this off if it runs successfully. Here is where it reviews and tells you what you've done. This is where it makes the workspace a little, where this doesn't show up. So if I do this, I can see it a little bigger when my programs get a little larger. Okay, so I'm going to click run. And you'll notice that it says all that. And if I pull it over, it'll say it on one line, but it didn't, did it? Because of this browser. There it is. Okay, so it's all on one line. Oh, and look, I spelled awesome wrong. So it's probably not going to give me 100% unless I put that O in there and run it again. I had a typo, right? Okay, so this little GUI interface window of MindTap kind of works a little funky. So that's why I do these together. So now if I look here, it should show me that it runs successfully. 1 out of 1 checks passed. Great work. So this little robot guy tells you that. And so it says run checks, and then it says submit for 100%. So if it ever doesn't say 100%, and you're working and working and working on it and can't get it to say that, then wait till class and we'll figure it out, okay? So 100%, so then you would click that, and that puts your grade over in Canvas for me. So did anybody not get 100%? Anybody need help? Okay.
I didn't get a.
You don't know what? Okay, capital T. But see that is all. Okay, try it again. Now, right here, or you can just put it there either way. Pass, great work. That's all it was. Capital T. Did you get yours in? Yeah, I did. Alex, right? Okay, what did yours do? Okay, a period. That's the answer to the Python. And it really is pretty good that they do that, because in most languages, okay, that was still printed it out right. Pull this over like share now, run it again with that. No, that's not that. Yeah, okay, okay, move that back. Okay, here. I just had to keep trying, I don't know. Sometimes it's like that. Everybody else got it, right?
No.
Okay, here's mine. Oh, you left the email also. On the other side. There we go. Okay, so this one is done. That's our only coding in Unit 1. And so we've already done a little bit more Python than just with prints, but that's the first thing they have you learn how to do in MindTap. So now we're going to go over to where Canvas is, and the next thing that we are supposed to do on the list is this one that I pulled up a minute ago, the Unit 1 programming exercise. Actually, it was before that. So I'm going to go to the book, the MindTap book. So I'm going to close out of this section. So if you've got 100%, let's cancel that out, or close that window, not cancel it, but close the window. And what you'll notice in MindTap is that I have made Unit 2 available. So those of you that are ready for Unit 2, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to go into the chapter so that we can do that homework problem. So I'm not going to actually do the homework problem, but we're going to do one right before it. So remember how to navigate inside MindTap. You have to go to chapter contents down to the exercises at the bottom, the programming exercises, and be sure and review all of these questions. Make sure you understand the answers to all of these. Now, we did problem 3 together in class, and we created the pseudocode and the flowchart, and I think we even did it in Python, but we did do the pseudocode and flowchart, which is what you do on the homework problem. I told you to do number 2 here, which you just get out of the chapter. And then I told you to do number 6. Well, some students in my online class uploaded this one that we did in class. Oh, we also did this one in class, the pseudocode and flowchart for the edge of a cube, or actually we had to find out the surface, the side of a cube, and the volume. So the only one that we didn't do was this one right before this one. Now here's what you have to remember with number 6, which is your assignment. There, it says to draw a flowchart and pseudocode for the logic of the program that allows the user to enter 2 values. So the ones that we've had so far have had just 1 input value, right? So we're going to have 2 input statements, and they can be in 1 parallelogram or 2 parallelograms, but it's 2 input statements. And then our actual calculations say to output the sum of and the difference between the 2 values. So there's 2 calculations. Now, what I had some students to do, let me open this so that it's not just abstract and I can explain it. Okay, I'm going to go to Lucid Chart. Oh, maybe if I spell it right. And now in the one that we did here, I'm going to open it up. In this one, when we did it, you notice that we have a start and a stop, and the flow line goes straight down. Now, I had some students do number 6 a little weird. They had like the 2 calculations coming out this way. You never have branching until we have a diamond-shaped decision box. So everything goes in a vertical line, just like it does in your pseudocode. They actually got the pseudocode correct because they had 2 input statements, then 2 calculations, and then an output statement. Okay, and you output the 2 variables. But over here, for some reason, in the flowchart, they didn't stack everything, and it makes no sense. You cannot come out one direction and out another direction. You can't instruct the computer how to do that. Okay, so in a computer, it has 1 entry point and 1 exit point in a program. That's how you give the instructions to the computer. It always has an entry and an exit. So my flow lines are going to go straight down. This is called sequential programming, one step after another. We're going to learn branching and decision making, but we haven't covered that yet. And we're going to cover repetition, which is loops, repeating. And we've seen that in the book, but whenever it doesn't tell you to make a decision, it just says do this and do this. The calculations are one after the other. So in number 6, we would have 2 variables like we did in our geometry problem where we calculated the cube, right? We asked for 1 input, but then we created 3 results, I think, 3 variable results. We did the side of the cube, we did a surface of the area, and we did the volume, right? I think I have that one here too. Let's see. Let me see if I have that. That one, I thought we did that one. Oh, that's probably where we did it without the flow chart. Okay. Yeah, here it is. So this one, if we go ahead and finish this one, the flow chart, because we didn't have time to do that, we'd bring this over. We would bring, then we would do our input is what? What do we use? Parallelogram right here. And I only have 1 input in this case. And then I have 3 calculations. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go ahead and create rectangle and another rectangle and another rectangle for 3 calculations. And then I'm going to have an output box, which is a what? Parallelogram. Good. And then a stop. So those are my shapes. Now, all I would do is, and I'm not going to go ahead and do this at this point, but I would put my start goes here, my input edge goes here. This one, as a matter of fact, I can, let me see if I can find that line. Actually can do this, I think. So if I wanted to say, oh no, it's not going to let me do that. Yeah, maybe. Okay, that one goes here. You can't do this, but I'm just doing it for demonstration points. That one goes in there. This one goes here. This one goes here. Oops, that one came out. No, it is not right. It went into that one. Okay, so let me do this line delete. All right. This is probably harder than putting them in there, but I didn't want to do it that way. So then this one is going to go to here, and my data statement goes here, and then my stop. So it's whichever is easier for you to see first, but you really are doing a duplicate. But some people can tell just looking at the flow chart, I can tell I'm going to have an input, I'm going to have 3 calculations, and I'm going to have an output, right? So when I read that problem up here, it says this allows the user to enter a value. So that takes care of this input statement. And then it says the program calculates the surface area of one side of the cube. So here's edge times edge is the surface size. Then the program calculates the surface area of one side of the cube. Oh, that's the one I just said. The surface area of the cube, which is this one. And then it says it calculates the volume, which is this statement. And then it outputs the results, which is this statement. So you see how you read the word problem and you match up if it's easier to see the pseudocode, but it may be easier for some people to see the pictorial representation. That's why we learn both, because we can at a glance, if we know the shapes, we know we have 1 input, we have 3 calculations, and we have an output. So if that's easier to draw first, and then you figure this out, whichever way is easier for you to do. Okay, did we do this one in Python? I don't think we did, but we're going to do one more of these. Any questions about this one? Because this is what you'll turn in. Now, how do I fix this where I can turn it in? What do I do in Lucidchart? You save it, okay, but when I just save, it's just going to save it here to Lucidchart, right? I want to, and it's what's it called instead of share? What do? I download, only yours says export. Export as PDF. And so when I do that, it's going to save a PDF file. I can tell it where to download it, where I know where it's at. So I should have a folder for this class. Mine's called Fundamentals and the 930 class. And so I would save it in that folder, right? And then I would go over to Canvas and I would click on this, which is my assignment, and it'll have a submit button up here on yours. Mine doesn't because I'm not in student view. I have to go back to home to do student view. So if I go student view, and if this was the correct problem, then I would click here and click submit assignment, and that's where my PDF would be submitted, okay? And that's the only requirement for this assignment right here is the flow chart and the pseudocode, right? And you have number 2, which is just the steps. So it's whenever we go over here to Lucidchart, we could put another box up here, a text box. Oops, check it over here. And this one is where I'm going to put problem number 2, the answer. So I'm going to go up here and change this to left. Maybe put it about 18. Oops, I didn't change the text that way. Okay, change it to like 18 here. You don't need to change yours because you're not trying to display it to the class. So here would be problem number 2. Oops. Problem number 2, I got to go in here where I can delete it. For some reason, it's not wanting to delete. Let me delete it. Okay, I would say problem number 2, and then I would write the answer, which was the steps that you use to solve a computer program. So that answer is in MindTap right over here in your chapter. So if I look at number 2, it says, in your own words, describe the steps to writing a computer program, right? And it was up here in the very beginning, I think, maybe right here. I think it's right here. Understand the problem, plan the logic, code the program. These are that's the solving a problem, right? So you would type those answers out, and then when you save this problem, you would say this one, and only this would be number 6, not this one. What number of problem is this one? 4. So don't submit number 4, submit number 6, okay? And I had some, that's why I'm telling you to be sure and do it. Do the right one. Okay, leave student view. All right, so now I'm going over here back to home. And so that is the one that I'm going to submit, and I want to see who can do that. So because later you have to learn how to submit in Canvas, and that's when I want to make sure that you know how to do that. All right, so this assignment, which is also due by next Tuesday night at midnight, is the variables, which is the one where it tells you, he tells you how to install Python on your computer, and he tells you how to install PyCharm. And then he takes you through 4 little Python programs. So what I tell you to do is to do a screenshot of where you finish. This is the first screenshot that you have to do. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 screenshots, or some students do it all in one PDF. They just put their screenshots. But you can submit them each one separately if you want. So in PyCharm, you'll follow this guy's video, and you'll do exactly, and this is telling you at what part of the video that it starts. Okay, so you'll do, oh, I'm sorry, you have also a hello world here to do. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screenshots. Okay, so yours can't be his. So you'll go here, and we go to,
and click this play button. And
okay,
down here, we're
let me
actually
show you
printing out
something.
that triangle. So mission accomplished. We were able to.
Okay, let me show you something. See this, if you're in YouTube, let me go over, let me just tell it to, I think if you click on the link, yeah, if you click on the link instead of clicking on him there, and you wanted to see where I got those times, see all those times are here. So what that's telling you is if you already have it installed, but you didn't finish everything I required you to do, you can look and say, okay, drawing a shape is at 10 minutes and something. Let's see. Okay, where's it at? 10 minutes and 30 something seconds. So, oops, right about, it's about right
here
there.
at the bottom, you'll notice that we have this text.
It's kind of loud, isn't it?
Hello world. So whatever I print, or whatever I put inside of this print statement is going to get printed out down below in the console. So as long as you're getting that print statement to work, then you've actually written your first Python program. And as we go forward in the course, we're going to be writing all sorts of awesome Python.
So what you would do is type this in, run it, and it'll show in the PyCharm down at the bottom. So you'll take a screenshot of that. Does anybody not know how to do a screenshot? Okay, so if you're on a Windows PC, there should be a print screen. What else is there that lets you do in Windows? Who's done it already? Anybody done that? Okay, Haley, what did you use Windows? Yeah, you've got it.
I use 2 different ones, I believe. I use my desktop to do the assignment, and I use print screen for it. But
Okay.
my Surface, usually you can look in the settings, but my Surface has 2 screenshot options.
Okay, but that doesn't, right? Is that what you're saying, the desktop?
No, I believe I have to look it up again.
Okay, yeah, it should have, see print screen on your keyboard in front of this one, in front of, on this keyboard, you should see at the top it says print screen. Okay, that'll create a file in the clipboard, it should, and you can submit it. It'll say, you can actually save it. Let me go over there and make sure in Windows how that works. How many are using Windows at home? Okay, the majority. Okay, so let me go.
Yeah, she just found it. It's the snipping tool.
Okay, let me look
That's
that
on
up.
the Windows. You just type it in your start bar.
Let's go here, 2020, and I'll switch over there up top too. Let me get logged in here. Yeah, I forgot what it was called in Windows. It's called a snipping tool. That's right. And you found it on under programs, right? Right here.
Yeah, you can just type it in the start bar.
Right here? Okay, okay, you can type snipping tool. Okay, snipping tool, go over here. Oops. Try snip and sketch. Let's see how you use this. Well, you don't have to do it that way. You should be able to snip. So is that, did that just do the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can like make, like, if you put your cursor and then drag.
Oh, you
Yeah.
could.
Yeah, you select the areas. I know sometimes.
Oh,
It can
okay.
be different modes. It can be like it can be like the actual full screen, or you can like do that.
Okay, that's how it is on the Mac too. So that did it, and then you can say File, Save As, and put it in your folder. So like your one, this one could say hello.ping if that's the first one, and save it, and then put them. So you're going to have 4 or 5, and it'll let you submit them all in that assignment. Okay. So has anybody uploaded theirs yet to the submit, or submitted them all yet? Let me see. I can tell. I'll go over to, so I can see show you what it looks like. Did somebody else have a question?
I did. I was gonna say, so you follow him and you do all of the different things.
Yes, yes, you
And
do.
then after you're done with those things, you screenshot it.
Well, yes, only what you'll have to do is you'll have to screenshot when you run the one, because then you'll start a new file for the second thing when you draw a shape. You see, so you're going to have to screenshot it at the end of each run. Okay, and if this first one, yes.
And you'll be screenshotting at these pause times that are on here?
Yes.
Right here? Okay.
That's correct. So let me see if one of these are done. I thought there was somebody that had.
I know mine is.
Yours is submitted?
The only
Okay.
one I haven't done was the Hello World. I didn't know that one had to be submitted as well.
That's this first time. If you don't submit that one, don't worry about it. Okay, let's see. Where's, hey, what's your last name?
Lashley.
So you should be right here. Why am there you go. Oh, spin, spin, and spin. It's kind of slow. Oh, let me go back to my. Okay, so this one, let me go to. Actually, I don't. Well, I haven't graded anything, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so on variables right here, she's done variables, so I'm going to click on it. Okay, you put them all in one PDF, didn't you? Okay, so how did you want to tell them how you did that?
So
Because hers is on Windows, so that's why I want her to show you.
I screenshotted all of them. And I loaded, I believe I loaded them onto.
See, hers are all in one file, one PDF. So maybe you put them all in Word or something.
I either put them all in Word or I used a PDF converter online.
But actually what you can do, if you don't know what she's saying, is you can go to Word, and like if I wanted to, do this file, new document. Okay, so say I had all four. I have some screenshots here I can use. Just a second. So say I had 4 screenshots for that particular assignment. I could just put them here, one after another in Word, however many I have. And then whenever I finish, Word will actually let you do File, Save As, and you can drop down here and say PDF.
Yeah, what
That's
I did.
what
I
you
couldn't
did?
remember if I
Okay.
did that or I just did a JPEG to PDF.
Yeah, and then you would say variables, whatever you want to call it. I think I didn't tell you, but like I would rather you do variables and your initials and then say export. And so that's one file has been created instead of you having to submit all 4 screenshots. Although if you don't know how to do that, you should be able to do it, though it's not hard. So, oops, no, I'm going to get back to, okay. So that's, hers says there's 4. It says there's 4 separate ones, but there's not. Maybe, oh, 4 pages of PDF. That's what it was. She put hers on 4 pages. So here's what it would look like. Like when she ran the first one after Hello World, this one drew a shape. See, you probably can't see it from way back, but there's her first screenshot in PyCharm, created the triangle. That's what he has you do first. Then you do one, what's this one? Numbers. What do you have you do here? Okay, you're adding. Yeah, you're printing and adding right here, adding numbers. And he has you see all the different functions that are part of Python, but he shows you exactly what to type in here. So if you type it like he says, and then you run it, you'll get this output. Then you type this one in, and you'll get this output. And the last one, you type that in, and you'll get this output. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. And if you see if you get to class on Wednesday and you couldn't get it submitted, you know, this is the first one. So if you've got it all done in these and you just couldn't get it submitted because you couldn't figure that part out, let me know and I'll help you with that, because this is just getting familiar with the user interface, okay, with Canvas and with how to, it doesn't really tell me that you did it unless I see those screenshots. That's why I do it that way. And in Canvas, there's a tutorial that shows you how to do screenshots and submit them too. All right, so this is all except this problem, which, and you'll notice I give you till right before, till September 9th on this one, but we're going to cover it in class right now, and you do 8B is what you do. If you look at this one, so September 9th should be the next Monday, for beginning of the 4th week, but you should not wait till then because we're going to have other assignments. I'm not sure why I put the 9th on there. I guess I was afraid I wouldn't get it done today. Okay, we will complete 8A in class for the lecture class. So that's the one we're going to do in the next 15 minutes. And then you will complete the problem, Unit 1, 8B, and we'll look at that. I have included here 8A. So this is what we're going to do in class, and there's the Python for it. And so you're going to do 8B, and I want you to load it. This is the file name. I want to see if you can follow the instructions and give it the right file name. So your PDF is supposed to be U1 for Unit 1 _ 8B, and don't type in your initials. And believe it or not, I have students do that. I actually want your initials there, okay, as the file name. So as an example, mine would be, just so you know, so if I was typing that file name for myself, it would be, come on, let's go. Oops, I don't want that. Bigger. Command plus. Okay, so it would be U1 underscore 8B dot, oops, I'm sorry, not a dot, DW. And it would say .pdf. You don't have to type in .pdf because in Lucidchart, you're going to save it that way. And then your Python would say U1, oops, U1 underscore 8B. So it's going to be the exact same name, but it will automatically put a PY in it when you do it, okay? So your initials go right there. And that's what so you will be submitting 2 files to this assignment, a PDF and a PY, okay? Both. All right, so let's go over now quickly back to MindTap. Yeah, we have time. And so I'm going to go down to the bottom again to the exercises. And we're going to go to number 8. And number 8 says, draw a flowchart or write pseudocode. And remember, the way I'm doing them right now, until I tell you different, you do both, even though the problem says one or the other. To represent the logic of a program that allows the user to enter an hourly pay rate and hours worked. The program outputs the user's gross pay. Okay, so how many input fields? 2. And then we're going to do a calculation to calculate the gross pay. So we're going to have another variable called gross pay. So we're going to have a processing calculation, just one, and then the output. So let's see. I'm not going to go in and create the whole thing. I think I already have it. Let me go here. Oh, let's see. Yeah, let me make sure I have it. So what I submitted for you for that problem, this part is already done, 8, whatever. Oh, no, I have to go into here and find it. I didn't copy everything over. But you can just download those 2 from inside Canvas if you want. Okay. I said I had chapter 1-8. There it is. Okay, so if I was in Lucidchart, I would have done this. It says enter an hourly pay rate and hours worked. The program outputs the user's gross pay. So here's the flow chart for it, only I don't have the pseudocode, so I am going to have to go in there and do it. It says start, and you notice I have 1 parallelogram. You can do it this way. You can say input hourly rate, comma, hours worked, or you could have 2 parallelograms that say input hourly rate, input hours worked. Okay, so either way is correct. This is the calculation step, gross pay equals hourly rate times hours worked. And then the output is output gross pay. So the important thing is that this matches this, and that these 2 variable names are identical to these 2 variable names. That's very important. These variable names don't have to be HRLYRATE. They can be whatever you want. You can come up with your own variable name, but it has to be consistent throughout your flow chart because it will give you problems. So now if I was going to do the pseudocode for this, let me go back since I have this already open. Okay, so now if I wanted to do the pseudocode, I probably even have that somewhere here. Oops, where's my folder? There it is. Okay, let me see if I can find that one that I did last time. So maybe not. thought I probably had it still saved here, but I don't see it. Okay, so if I wanted to take that same one that I just showed you, and I'm going to make it in a pseudocode, which is what my problem is going to be. Actually, your problem is going to be 8B, so we're going to read that here in a second so that you understand what your assignment is. So this one, I'm going to do a start. Oops, maybe. And so after the start, my input statements were input, and I said hourly rate, but I could just say H rate, and that makes it shorter if I want to. So you can leave it either way. And then the way I did my flow chart was I said comma, what was the other variable? Worked, hours worked. So it'd be W or HWK. That's how I'm going to do it. Or I may say worked because that'll make more sense. Okay, hours worked. And then I have my calculation, which was gross pay. So I might just say GPay equals. Now I have to use the same rate times H worked. And so then the only thing left is my output. So I would say, oops, output equals, not output equals, output G pay. And then I would go down here and say stop. Okay, so now I'm going to take just these middle statements. So that's what I gave to you, right? So now I'm going to go to PyCharm, if I can find it. Okay, let's just go up here, PyCharm. So I'm going to open up PyCharm. And I actually gave you this one that works. And so I'm going to say create a new project. Create. Oh, I forgot to give it a title, didn't I? Let's see if it'll let me change it here. I'm not as familiar with, yeah, there it is. Okay, new file. Enter a new file name. So I'm going to call this one, if I'm doing 8B, I could go ahead and call it U1 underscore 8, but this is actually 8A, but yours will be 8B, DW, and then I say, okay, and I tell it that I want it to be a Python file. Where, oh, it didn't let me do that. Open matching files. Why is it doing that? .py. I don't want it to be a text file. I must have picked something wrong at the top. I usually use idle, so let me see. I'm going to close this one out and open again. Let me say, create a new project. I'm going to go up here and name it U1 underscore 8A dw.py. It's in 3.6, create. Okay, and now if I go down here and I right click, new, here's where I didn't, Python file. I picked file up at the top. So when I get my project here, I right click, do new, and go over to Python file. And now I can name it, even if I didn't name it this before, say U1 8A, and it should automatically put the Python at the end of it. There it is. So now I can copy and paste what I had, but remember here I'm going to put the variable names. Now here's the thing that's different when you have two inputs. You have to do two input statements. H rate equals input, and actually I have to say int. Where did the int go? I always do it backwards, right? Input. So I'd say, boom, please enter an hourly rate. And then I would close these like that. I'm going to take this off. And so now I would have a second input. So I'm just going to copy and paste this one and change the variable name, right? So copy paste. And this one is called H worked. And hours. And then this one can actually stay the same if I spelled my variables right. And then output, instead of output, what do I say? Oh, and with this needs to be over to the edge. Instead of output, what do I say in Python? Print. So I say print, and because it is just a variable that I'm printing, then I don't have to put it in quotes in the inside because I'm printing out a variable. So now let's see if I coded it properly. Please enter an hourly rate. So if I say 10, please enter hours worked, let's say 40, because we know what that answer will be, 400. So that's the answer. All right. So now what you want to do, we got 5 minutes left, so we're going to go back over to MindTap, and you see what part B says. Modify the program that computes gross pay to allow the user to enter the withholding tax rate. The program outputs the net pay after taxes have been withheld. So you're going to add an input for the withholding tax rate, right? So you can take that program that we just did and you can modify it to have one more input, and then your calculation, you have to calculate how much taxes they're going to pay. So it'd be whatever their rate was times their gross pay, right? So the rate times their gross pay would be another variable. You can do it all in one statement if you want to, and you can change that gross pay statement. But if you do it this way, you would calculate the tax rate, or I mean the tax amount, and then there's a third calculation you'd have to do. Subtract from the gross pay, and that would equal the net pay. So if you just modify what I gave you, you would add 2 more calculations, right? There is a way to do it in one long statement. Some of you may do that if you know how. But that is the answer to this exercise right here. That's how you would do it. So then you would pseudocode and flowchart the change here in Lucidchart. So you would change it here to add another input, which would be what? Tax rate. And then you're going to go in and add 2 more calculations. After you calculate gross pay, then you're going to have 2 more here. One of them will calculate tax amount equals, and then the next one will calculate net pay equals, right? And then you'll output net pay instead of gross pay, right? So I especially, even if you can't get the Python to work, if you get the pseudocode right and the flowchart right, then you're going to get the majority of the points. Because that's what I'm interested in first, is that you know how to solve the problem, not whether you know how to code in Python. The Python's for more fun, okay? All right. So any questions about what your assignments are? Anybody? All right. Y'all have a great holiday, extra day off, and I will see you a week from today. Okay. Oh, let me turn this Zoom off. Hold on.